The Title Block, episode number 1, Michelle Ramsay.
It's gonna snow tonight. I know I will be liking it. So let's go. Let's go. Step out of the house, step into the wild. Put on that dress tonight, the one your mom don't like. I'll see you at the lights.
Welcome to The Title Block, a podcast dedicated to Canadian theatre designers, their history, and their craft. This is your host, Michael Cruz, and this is episode number 1, where we will begin talking to lighting designer Michelle Ramsay a little later. First, I wanted to briefly cover the mandate of this podcast and its approach. I have started the podcast in an effort to record the personal and professional histories of theatrical designers in Canada. While theatrical design has been recognized occasionally in the media, there have been few efforts in the past to record both the personal stories of Canadian designers as well as discuss their design philosophies and professional history. With the access given to me through my former career as a lighting designer, I hope to interview senior designers in Canada and create a repository for the history of theatrical design here on the podcast. I'm not an academic or a journalist, and I may occasionally fall on my face, or more than occasionally, but unlike other more permanent art forms, theater design exists for but a fleeting moment, and the artists and artisans who create these moving sculptures, what Adolphe Pia called the living works of art, deserve to have their history and work preserved in some small fashion, and to have the opportunity to stand as an inspiration for future theatrical artists. Well, that's the plan. I have several interviews already lined up, and I offer this first one as a test of the medium as I fumble my way through a conversation about design. I spoke to Michelle Ramsay in February 2014. Michelle is a Toronto-based lighting designer in the middle of her career and has designed lighting across Canada for theatre and dance. She has worked at the Tarragon Theatre, Cahoots Theatre with Fujian, Theatre Direct Canada, Buddies and Bad Times Theatre, and at the Shaw Festival, among many others. Michelle is the 2008 winner of the prestigious Pauline McGibbon Award and has been nominated for 11 Dora Mavor Awards and received 3. Here's the interview. Michelle Ramsay, welcome to the Title Block. Thank you for being my guinea pig.
Thank
so
you.
So exciting. You are a lighting designer based in Toronto, but you weren't born here.
I was not born here.
Where the hell were you born?
I was born in Prince George, British Columbia.
That's a long way away.
It is a long way away.
How did you find your way to theater?
I found it in high school. I was in the band, and we shared a room with the drama department. And it just seemed like a fun thing to do. So I got interested in the acting end of it because that's usually how people start in high school.
Right. Was there a tech program at your high school?
There was no tech program. I became the tech program.
That happens.
Yeah. So my drama teacher was looking for stage managers and that kind of thing for a show, and I volunteered, and I realized very quickly how terrible I was at acting. So in order to stay involved, I headed towards stage management.
Fantastic. And so that seems to be people's sort of in as well. Stage management never sort of starts with lighting design or sound or anything like that. It's always stage management. Did you have, what kind of facilities did the school have? Did you have any opportunity to actually do any kind of...
Yeah, not at my particular high school. It was very sort of bare bones. We had I think it was called the Upper Gym, which had very limited lighting capabilities, and our drama room had very limited capabilities as well. I think there was a little manual board and a couple of small lights and that kind of thing, but it was very, very limited. But I started working at the next high school over, PGSS, which had a place called Vanier Hall, which was like a roadhouse, basically. So we had people like the Arts Club come through, and Ballet Jazz de Montreal, and Royal Winnipeg Ballet and that kind of thing. And my drama teacher happened to be the head technician there, so he was looking for load-in crew one day, and I didn't volunteer. I was actually getting paid, which was crazy because I was 14,
right,
pushing cases for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. So.
Was it a union hall or was it?
No, it wasn't union. No, it was mostly students. I mean, Prince George, it was pretty limited, the amount of skilled labor for this kind of thing. And I quickly became the skilled labor. So I was like the head tech at 16.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, that's terrific. So they had this sort of small professional theater in town. Did you have any kind of professional groups that were producing theater themselves, or was it all touring shows?
No, it was all. There was a lot of community. There was a very strong community theater group there. I never got involved with it, but I pretty much stayed at Vanier Hall and worked at Vanier Hall and did everything, events from the Prince George Symphony Orchestra to Judy Russell Dance Studio, which was like one of the big dance studios in town, and they did the Nutcracker every year,
all right,
and that kind of thing. And we also had pretty large, like Michelle Wright, who's a country singer. She came through, and they had a pretty big rig for the space that we had. Like the space, Vanier Hall was actually really limited, but we did what we could with what we had.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but there was no. There was no professional company until Theatre Northwest moved in, and that was just as I was leaving town.
And what year was that?
Oh, that would have been, when did they start? I can't remember exactly, but it was probably in the 97, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But a very strong community. Yeah,
lots of community theater.
That seems to be pretty typical. I mean, when I was growing up as well, there was a very strong community theater element. Yeah. That sort of was your gateway drug, as it were, to theater. Now, what made you want to do this as a profession? I mean, did you get a lot of encouragement from your drama teacher, or did you have encouragement from the family, or did you just throw caution to the wind, or was it how did you get there?
Definitely, I had a lot of encouragement from my drama teacher. My grade 11 and grade 12 drama teacher was pretty, he was very encouraging in terms of getting someone involved technically. There were a lot of actors, so if he saw someone that was technical, he kind of pulled them out and tried to teach them things. I learned a lot about stage management from him, actually. And my parents have always been very encouraging. And when I was in high school, I really wanted to do something either in music or theater, and I couldn't decide which one. And I have incredible stage fright, so that sort of got decided for me. Behind the scenes are much better for me.
Yeah, I totally understand. I was on stage as well in high school, and I did a lot of acting, and learning lines was something I could never. Yeah. Always drove me crazy. Yeah. So you get to this point at the end of high school, and you have to make a choice of where to go or what to do. Did you know did you want to be a designer at that point, or was it just a tech?
Designer for sure. Designer was, that was, and I wasn't sure. I didn't quite understand how one was able to make a career out of it. I didn't. I knew that I was really interested in lighting design, but actually doing it as a career was beyond my scope of understanding.
Well, yeah. What was the pedigree of your drama teacher? Like, where did he
was from out here. He was actually he did a lot of work in. I think he was a teacher in Scarborough for a little while, but I mean, other than that, I don't really know too much about where he trained or anything. So,
right, but he certainly knew about tech. Yeah. He was there to help you out. Yeah. Well, that's terrific. So you're in Prince Rupert. You're making a decision of where to go. Prince George. Prince George from
only
Rupert.
12 hours apart. No big deal.
Like, what do I know? I'm from Toronto. We're gonna get letters already. We're getting letters. It's only the first time we're already getting letters. Okay, so you're in Prince George, the other prince in BC. And what choices did you have? How did you make that decision?
There were a lot of choices in BC, but so I applied to UVic and UBC and Malaspina College and Douglas College, and there's a lot of theater schools mostly in the Lower Mainland, but a couple on the island and that kind of thing. But when I also applied to York and U of T and Ryerson, just because I was threw caution to the wind and decided, oh, why not? And something got messed up with my transcripts. So none of my transcripts got sent anywhere in BC. And I didn't,
Okay.
And I didn't find out until it was too late. So so I got this letter in August from York University saying, hey, you got into the general arts program. And I was like, oh, well, that's crazy. Like moving from small town northern BC to, Toronto, what I thought was Toronto. Later I found out it was actually North York.
Right. That's okay. It's close enough.
Yeah. So I decided to go there
and just take that big plunge.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have anybody who blazed the trail for you, like people that you went to school with that were at higher years, or anybody you knew in town, or were you just?
I just went.
That's a pretty big leap.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so you make it to Toronto.
Yeah.
And your luggage follows you.
Yes.
Nothing gets lost.
Yeah.
It's excellent. You get to York University. Yeah. And when did you start there? What year was your first
93.
year? 93.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And in the theater program?
Not in the theater program. I was in the general arts program. I took a theater course for non-majors, and I had a professor, Douglas Buck, who on the first day I went to him and I said, I want to be in the theater department. How do I get in? And he gave me lots of great advice, volunteer for crews, and for the first year crews, go to all of the, they had this thing called prime time, which was guest lecturers from the community coming in. Right. So I went to all of those, and he said, just be involved. So I got myself involved and, made myself... got myself noticed.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always be in the way. That's always important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's terrific. Yeah. And then you got in.
Yep.
So did you have to audition, or did you have to have a portfolio review, or something like that?
I had to audition, and the way that you get into York is you you show them a portfolio, or you talk about your body of work, or you audition as an acting student. And I chose to talk about my body of work because my body of work, that sounds so ridiculous. I was, 18 at the time or something. Right. But I talked a lot about technical theater and how I was really passionate about it, and how I was just I really wanted to get into the department and learn more about lighting design and that kind of thing. So they went for it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific. Now, at this point, did you do any... I know that when I was in high school, I was kind of hungering for kind of design theory, and there wasn't a lot available from the teachers that I knew. Yeah. So I had to sort of seek it out myself. Were you doing any of that kind of research yourself, or did you? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I was definitely trying, going to the library and finding theater books, and there weren't very many lighting design books, and I don't think there were any, actually. There were some like set design books, I guess, but I think there were, I want to say, like 4 or 5 technical theater books in the library.
Kind of like the 1976 scene design and stage lighting.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely I was absorbing as much kind of art as I could, and it was before the days of the Google and the internet and all that stuff. Yeah.
I had to go to the library.
I had to go to the library. Yeah.
It's incredibly tedious.
Actually go and talk to people.
Vertical files. Thumbing through vertical files.
Yeah. But I definitely, like when I was in Prince George, there were several of my peers that were not creating new work, but creating work. Like I had a small company with a friend of mine. It was started by 2 other people, but I sort of inherited it, and we did like improv nights and short play nights at a local cafe and that kind of thing. So we were kind of creating our own weird little work.
Right. That's okay. That's terrific. Yeah. Okay, so you get through York. Mm-hmm. I'm going to fast forward to the end. Yeah. But were there any mentors in the actual theater school at York that you really, really felt moved you along, that gave you opportunities? Or were you really just making up your own opportunities as you went through?
I didn't really connect necessarily with any of the professors there. The staff were fantastic, and I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot about work ethic from them. I learned a lot about what I didn't know from them. but the actual professors themselves, I didn't necessarily connect with any of them. So it was a little bit unfortunate, but it kind of made me realize that a lot of my education I had to find on my own. Yeah.
It's kind of good preparation for being an independent contractor
Exactly,
as well, or independent
exactly.
artist, right?
Yeah,
Making
yeah.
your own choice or chances.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of you get out of York.
Yeah.
You're ready to go and start designing. And what happens? Like, do you
start working at Wonderland?
Right. Just like so many of us before.
I got a job there in third year over the summertime, and I sort of worked there for 2 summers, and then at the end of my in fourth year, I just kept working there. So I worked the off season, kind of installing and uninstalling sound on the rides and the games and that kind of thing. Working the concerts, I worked the pyro events. It was fun and grueling, and I learned so much. Actually, a lot of it. I don't necessarily use day to day, but definitely working for a big place like that, you touch equipment that you would never touch otherwise. So
exactly. Now, what was your first professional design gig you got paid for? Someone said, "Please come to rehearsal."
Oh dear. Oh man.
Is it even remember? Can you even remember it?
I don't even remember. What was my first professional design? I might have to pull my resume out.
It's okay. We can move on. No, but were you able to find design work right away? I mean, you have a network that you built in New York. Did you have that network to draw on, or was it something that?
Definitely the way that my sort of strange path into professional design was grew out of York and out of the people that I met there. So a friend of mine. Michael Hodge, who he was in the same year as me, and he later became the TD at Tarragon. He was one of the first people to recommend me for a job, for a tech job. So I teched at the backspace at Passe Muraille for a show, and this is a good It's a good story about how one job leads to the next job leads to the next job. So the stage manager on that show was the wife of the technician at the Tarragon main space. So he was looking for on-call people, and she recommended me to him, and then he hired me, and got we got to know each other, and it was really great. And then a PM at the factory was looking for a new technician, talked to him, and passed me off to her. So then I became the house tech at the studio at the factory. Just sort of in a and it happened in a very kind of couple of months that happened. So so that's how I started working as a technician, and that inevitably sort of led to design work in a weird kind of way. But
you get exposed to directors who come to the space, or maybe looking for people, or especially in the studio space, you've got people who are new companies, and
that the companies that came through the factory when I worked there were quite established companies and really did amazing work. So in 1 year I had Smith Gilmore, Volcano, Theatre Columbus. So those were some of the companies that came through.
Right, and that was in the late 90s round. Now 97, 98.
Yeah, it was 99 was when I started there.
99. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah. All right, so I just want to turn to your basic design philosophy. Is now we've got sort of another sort of chunk here, another 15 minutes. So talking about this, when you approach a play, now obviously this is something you've developed over the last while, and the stuff you were doing 15 years ago you might not be doing now. Yeah. But someone approaches you and says, "Would you like to do our new play?" First of all, what are your considerations to take the gig? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, usually I have a list of things that I'll ask. So one of them is, who is the director? Usually the director is the one that's asking me. Who are the designers? Who is the PM? Is there a PM?
Right. Very important question.
Very important question. What is the venue? What is the budget? What is the fee? That kind of thing. and generally I'll read the script before I take a contract, if there is a script, or I'll talk to the director if it's a new director, just to kind of get an idea of whether or not we'll be good to work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Terrific. Okay, so now you've taken the gig.
Yeah.
And you get the script. How do you go through it and break it down? Like, do you? I know some people don't worry about it too much, but how do you approach it?
Usually, what I do is I read the script first, just to read it, just for me, just to kind of get a sense of what the story is about. And then my second and third readings, I'll jot down some notes about how I feel when I'm reading the script, or colors that might come to me, or images that might come to me. And that's also when I start doing kind of image research as well. So Google Images, like my buddy, and that kind of thing. And finding artists that I might get influenced by, that kind of thing.
Well, that's terrific. I have a similar approach.
Yeah.
And now, do those images make it into the play? Do they? How do you draw inspiration from them? Like,
yeah, sometimes. There's definitely. Sometimes the images that you find when you start researching don't necessarily match what's actually going to be the end product, but sometimes they do. I mean, there are definitely images of photographers and artists that I look at when I'm cueing the show, or when I'm planning, when I'm drafting, when I'm picking color, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how do you communicate those ideas to the director at this point? Like, do you share with them the images, or do you have a...
Yeah. Usually, I mean, I try and get involved in kind of early set discussions as well with the set designer. And depending who the set designer is and depending who the director is, they're more or less receptive to it.
Right. How often are you brought in early enough to have those discussions before the design is done? Is it now like a standard thing? Because it used to be... Yeah,
I try and make it standard. There are some designers that I work with that are... they definitely start talking to me when they're figuring out their prelims. I think it depends on my relationship with the set designer, my relationship with the director as well. Yeah. So, but I try and get in there. I would say about 75% of the shows I'm in there before the final set design is complete.
Do you feel like you're given enough chance to have an influence over?
Yeah.
Like it should be a collaborative effort.
Absolutely, it should be collaborative.
And you feel like you have the kind of power to say, nah, it's not going to work, or I had these ideas, and you can. Yeah,
I mean, generally it's like the set designers that I work with are really, really open to that kind of thing, and they actually crave it. Like people like Cami Koo is a person that I work with a lot, and we have a very good relationship with bouncing ideas off each other, and so usually it's a really usually we're able to kind of nix each other's ideas if they're not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'll say, I can't give a specific example, but she'll say, how about this height of wall? And I'll be like, oh, actually, I need to get a light, shooting over it. So it'd be great if it was this height of wall, or that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, how do you record those concepts? So you've got these ideas in your head of what you want to see. You have a vision. How do you then take those ideas and then translate them to sort of two-dimensional sketches, and then to the actual drawing? Like that's like a set designer can draw things out, can make a rendering, and then take a 2D. It's very easy to take that and make it two-dimensional into a set plan, floor plan. Yeah. But a lighting designer, that three-dimensionality is not really in the final sort of technical drawing. So how do you translate that?
Well, I'm a terrible drawer, so
okay, join the club. That's like every other lighting designer. Usually, I've got a pretty good handle on how colors are going to mix and the look that I want to. Not necessarily the final look, but what I think the final look will be, because there are always surprises, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. And generally, when I talk to directors about it, I don't talk in terms of technical
technical words. I say things that are more descriptive and more kind of feeling based than actual technical things. But
how do you go about finding a vocabulary? Because not every director seems to have a different way of talking about design. They have their own kind of conceptual tools that they use. How do you find you're in with the director on establishing a vocabulary?
Well, generally, I sort of try and take their lead and figure out what they're comfortable with, because there are some some directors that are more comfortable with kind of. Trying to think of the right words for it. Like the last director I worked with at Theatre Kingston, Charlotte Gowdy, we did this show called Red, and I did a lot of hand gestures to show how fast things were going to go, or how slow, or whether it was going to, if it was an effect, I would, move my hand up and down and that kind of thing. And she, I think she really understood that. Right.
That's kind of probably the most difficult part of it, right? Because you can say it's going to look like a Vermeer painting, but lighting moves. It's got a time dimension in it, and it's very hard to.
Absolutely, and definitely, like, music has a major influence on how I time things, and even if there isn't music in the cue, like I'm not matching to a musical cue, it's always got a beat or like some sort of movement, like in a musical way, in a metronome way or whatever.
Right.
So,
Now that brings us to the sort of next process. So you've got the plot, and in all your ideas kind of coalesce. But then you have to actually sit down and cue this thing, and you've got 4 hours or 6 hours, sometimes an 8 hour or couple 4 hour slots if you're lucky. But let's just say you have 4 hours. It's a 2 hour play. Go for it. How do you approach that cue wise? What are your first steps to sort of get prepared for that?
Well, usually, I mean, the first thing that I always do is I always show the director. I do a flash through, so I show the director every single light in the plot. And I know that some people don't always do that, but I think it's really important to show the director what the tools are that they're able to play with, what the paints are that you're actually able to paint your canvas with. So that's the first thing I always do. And I always have a very clear cue sheet as well. Like through the rehearsal process, I create a very detailed cue sheet, even if it doesn't say, like all of the blue tops at full or whatever. It tells me what I want the scene to feel like, or how I want the things to move, or where I want to look, that kind of thing. Do
you share that with the stage manager before going into the cue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a cue? A lot of people do a paper cue where they sit down and place everything in the book. Yeah. Do you find that useful?
If there's limited time, then yeah, definitely. Or if there's a lot of elements. So, like, there are some shows where the cueing sequences are going to be really complicated. Not necessarily just mine, but the sound designers and the potentially the projection designer as well. Yeah, definitely, I find a paper tech helps a lot. But I always give the stage manager my cue sheet, because that means that we barely have to talk. They can just put cues in the book, and I can just keep moving on. And if they have a question, then
how much do you give? I know that in the advent of computerized lighting, I sound like back in the 1970s, the computerized lighting. With the advent of computerized lighting, you have a lot more control over the steps.
Absolutely.
Back in the 80s and 90s, where a lot of the smaller theaters still had manual boards, you really had to rely on the operator and the stage manager to get their stuff together. Yeah. Now you can control that down to the millisecond. Yeah. How do you work with the stage manager to get what you want?
Well, I've been extremely lucky with the stage managers that I've worked with, especially in the recent past. I usually I try and talk about what the cue, if it's a difficult cue for them to get, I talk about where I want the cue to land is a good way to phrase it, usually with some stage managers. And I tell them what I want it to look like, so that when I'm gone, they understand that, oh, well, that cue needs to be shortened now, because it needs to be complete by the time that actor is at the table or whatever, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Awesome. And now, let's just talk about color for a second. Do you have any kind of palette that is your palette? Like, this is the stuff. Here's the 8 colors that I use all the time because I know how to use them.
Yeah.
Or do you approach it differently?
I mean, I definitely have my favorite colors, but my favorite colors change all the time. So there are times where I will definitely pull colors that I've used in the past out when I, especially if I'm limited on time and limited on budget. And, you know, because I really love to experiment, and I try and do a new color at least every show, but you know, if there's no time and there's no money, then you kind of have to fall back on the
right.
Yeah.
When I was going to school, Shalom Dolgai was our lighting instructor, and he used to say, when we're dealing with the director, you get led down the garden path many times,
Right.
and you have to be able to have a backup. How do you negotiate that garden path? Like, some directors are checklist directors. Here's the 8 things I want.
Right.
Some of them are completely ambiguous, and they say, do what you want, and then they'll tell you when they don't like it.
Right.
What happens when you get, I don't want to say tricked, because that would be, there's not really a maliciousness, but when somebody has an idea they want you to follow, and then it just falls flat in its face. How do you deal with that? How do you anticipate dealing with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely, I think I try and prepare my director as much as possible before going into the theater. So I tell them, you know, the colors I'm using and the concepts I'm using and the intention of what I'm doing. But definitely there is sometimes that director that you've worked with for the first time, and you think you're understanding each other, and then all of a sudden you get to the theater and in queuing, and they're like, red, why do you have red on stage? I didn't ask for red. So in that case, then I will try and fix it. I mean, that's sort of the only that's the short answer. So you know, I'll try and figure out what the director is saying to me, which is sometimes hard if you thought you knew what they were saying to you in the first place. Yeah, I mean, definitely I want the director to be happy. Like, that's sort of, you know, my number one thing. But I also don't want to completely take away, if I have a really strong concept or a really strong idea, I want to make sure that gets put in. So I'll fight for concepts, but I think the number one thing is to make sure that the director's happy. So I'll just try and figure out what that is.
Right. At what point do you have to sort of give up making it your own, or like how? Sometimes you just have to sort of say, throw your hands up. You want blue, you got blue.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually very clear when that happens, and usually it has to do with time. Like, usually it's, all right, well, we have an audience tomorrow, and my director wants blue on stage, and I haven't done it yet, and they keep asking for it. So it's generally pretty clear to me when it's time to give up the fight. But I'm also a pushover.
Well, you know, there's pushovers and then there's compromise. Right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Strip lights too bright. Give me some night. Give me something to do with somebody like you. We could be in the sky. I'll see you at last.
And that was my chat with Michelle. That was our first half of our chat. You'll have to wait for the second half next time on the title block. I also have upcoming interviews with set designer Sean Kerwin and lighting designer Kevin Lamont, so I can't wait for that. The intro and extra music is Passe music by the 1990s called See You by the Lights. Please go to iTunes and give us a review, although you may want to hold back until I have a few episodes under my belt. And feel free to share this with your friends, colleagues, students, and teachers, or listen to it under the backstage blues, huddled behind that giant stuffed bear from Act 2. I'm Michael Cruz, and I'll see you next time on The Title Block.
You wear my favorite shoes. I see light in you.